I am your host, Reverend Patrina White McClure. I am so excited about today's show. We have a very, very, very special guest with us. But before I bring her on so that you can meet her, let me remind you that WCEG Network is your 501c3 nonprofit community radio station. So if you are looking for a place to sow your seed, you can find fertile ground here with us at area code 404-490-8646. That is area code 404-490-8646. And without further to let me introduce to you our very, very, very special guest, Peggy White. She is the CEO and founder of OMG WOW. That is OMG Women Outreaching Women, which is also a nonprofit, a 501c3 organization. And welcome, Mrs. White.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Patrina and WCEG and the family for inviting me. I'm so thrilled to be here today. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Ms. Peggy, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am Peggy White, founder and CEO of OMG Women Outreaching Women. But prior to that, I was a corporate executive working in various corporations as leadership, working in banking, working in travel, working in pharmaceuticals, supporting corporations in sales, marketing, etc. Most recently, I started OMG Women Outreaching Women as an organization to support Black women to high levels of success by educating them in various areas. We call it the F.R.E.S.H program, F.R.E.S.H. That's F as in Frank, R as in Robert, E as in Echo, S as in Sam, H as in Henry, which stands for finance, relationships, entrepreneurship, spiritual, and health. I am so happy to be here. I'm married. I have 4 children. I have 8 grandchildren with 1 on the way. I live in sunny Winnetka, California, near Los Angeles, California. And I am, like I said, just so blessed to be here.
Well, thank you for being a part. I apologize for the technical difficulty on my end of things, but thank you, thank you, thank you. We are so honored that you are here with us. Looking at your bio, you have an extensive background in communications and marketing. Would you tell us how that journey started for you and how you ended up at OMG WOW, founding that organization?
Well, you know, my journey is maybe different than some, for sure. I hail from Gary, Indiana. I'm the oldest of 3 children. I have 2 younger brothers, although when you look at them, they're taller than me. So my parents migrated from the South in the Great Migration during the 50s, and they moved to northern Indiana. So they had an opportunity to work in factories and labor. And I realized when I was young that I didn't want to go the labor route for sure. And I think someone asked me when I was about 4 years old, what would you like to be when you grow up? And I said, a teacher. And it's interesting because, in those days we had the attics, and we renovated our attic to, a living space. Matter of fact, we had relatives that actually lived in that space for a minute. And as they started to migrate to the north, my parents would have their siblings come and stay with us. But anyway, this was an attic, and so we turned it into like a little schoolhouse. And so my younger brothers, I used to have them sit, and my mom bought me a little bulletin board, and we kind of chalk it up, and I would teach them like math and words like reading and that kind of thing. So I realized that I really wanted to be a teacher early on. But as I started going through school, I did pretty good in school. I realized that teachers were underappreciated, that's for sure. And they certainly didn't make a lot of money. And I just wanted to be a rich lady. So someone said, well, you should be in business. So around in high school, I actually was the drum major, the leader of the band, the concert band, the marching band, all the bands. And I actually had 2 scholarships to go to 2 schools, two Black-owned, predominantly Black schools. And I didn't take those scholarships because my counselors counseled me to a business degree. And for some reason, no one said, well, you can still take those degrees, get your college paid for, and still concentrate in business. But that's a whole nother story we'll have to talk about. But that's part of the reason why you want to really make sure that you have a place where we can be educated and make really, really good decisions. So from there, I actually ended up at Indiana University. My degree is in marketing and communications. I finished at Indianapolis, in IU Indianapolis, and I journeyed to California. And so I've actually lived in Southern California longer than I've lived anywhere. And I began my journey in business and just working for various companies. I've worked for manufacturers, I've worked for banks, I've worked for marketing and advertising companies, and pharmaceutical companies. And from these experiences, this is when I really developed my leadership skills, my communication skills, my marketing skills, my sales skills, underwriting, banking, finance skills. So I take all these skills and I say, you know what? God said, and I often wonder why I went through so many different types of career situations. Like, why am I in banking? I mean, why am I over here? Why am I doing this? And I was then led to say, okay, God says, you know what, Peg, you're going to utilize all those skills and strengths and knowledges that I've deposited in you, and you're going to pay that forward to women who look like you. And so it was started. OMG Women Outreaching Women, like I said, is probably I want to say, the end of the beginning. So, being in corporate America, I credit them for all of the areas of expertise and knowledge and experience that I've gained from that. But honestly, I see it as a dead end opportunity. And I really see entrepreneurship, women-owned businesses, women doing things in the community that way to develop and really develop wealth. I think it's an opportunity to bridge the wealth gap that we have developed among Black women.
I love your story because it incorporates the training and the development and the vision building that you didn't even necessarily know you were gaining those skill sets, but they help equip you for your future, for the God-given vision that God had for you. He had to prepare you before you could walk into it so that you can sustain the vision. You won't lose it through inexperience like so many other businesses do. And I love that you're concentrating in the area of Black women because it's us. We have good product. We have tasty food, all the dynamics necessary to be a booming business, but we lack the skill set to keep it going. So is that the purpose of OMG WOW?
That is the purpose. It's interesting that you say that we don't have the skill. We actually do. We are the most employed. We did a feasibility study for this nonprofit organization, and it was discovered so many different pluses for Black women. We are the most educated, so we have higher degrees than any other ethnic group, yet we are paid only about 60% of what white men are paid. We are the most employed. So even if we're underemployed, we are still employed. We will go get a job. We will go get 2 jobs, 3 jobs, again, more than any other ethnic group, but we still tend to make less. Even in entrepreneurship, we'll start a business, to your point, and even if we're driving the business, we may average about $14,000 a year when the average white woman is averaging $40,000 a year. When you just compare, incomes, not to mention trying to scale that business up or to be able to get capital or credit or all those kinds of things. So what I've discovered, and again, we're about 2 years into this organization and we're talking to women as we go and we're comparing stats and that kind of thing, is that it's just mentorship and education. See, there's a thing in corporate America. There were a couple of ways in which you could advance your career in terms of collaboration. One was you could have a mentor or mentors that would help guide you, educate you on the ins and outs of the organization. And inside and outside, I had mentors inside our organization and mentors outside the organization that, would help you along and say, well, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Here's how you interview, here's what you say, here's what you need to do, all these things. But what we really need is sponsorship. And what sponsorship is when someone, even if you're not in the room, they're talking about you and they are advancing you and saying, yes, Patrina can do that job because she does this, 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 and this, and they move it forward. So you literally don't need to interview for that role. Someone's already grooming you and preparing you and talking about you to move you forward. Sponsorship is important, and especially in corporate America. So I mentioned that because without having sponsorship and mentorship, you won't necessarily advance, especially at the speed in which you would like to go within corporate America. Well, that's knowledge that I don't know that everybody knows and certainly doesn't exercise. And so what happens with us is if we're not being intentional about our career moves, advances, and what we need to do to get to the next level, we lose. Now, let's say you go through all of that and you still aren't necessarily advancing, because that, again, is where I feel the disrespect comes in for, Black women. So in our organization, we're educating towards that. We're providing that mentorship. So at least the knowledge is there. The execution is there. And that's, of course, important for that person that we are mentoring to actually execute. A lot of it is we want to do it. We just don't know how to do it, or we don't know the steps to take to do it. And if we did, we would do it and we would be great. So that's high levels of success. On the entrepreneurship side, I feel really that it's one product selection. You mentioned that a lot of times Black women have, the best food or the best, jewelry, or we're in the beauty industry, hair, that kind of thing. And I don't believe that this is just me saying, what we're noticing is that we need to make really good choices on the products and services that we offer. That's one. Number two, we then need to make sure that we get paid what we're worth. And I don't mean hourly. I don't mean billable hours hourly. I mean taking something and looking at what value we are providing, what problem we are solving for a group or organization or our customers, and putting a value on that and saying, I'm going to charge you this because what I'm offering you is worth this. For example, if I'm a consultant, I'm a business consultant, and I go to a business and I realize that they have 3 major business problems. And if we present those problems to them, identify what the need is, identify what the solution is, then what value would that bring to that organization if we solve those problems? And usually it's thousands of dollars. And so you don't charge by the billable hour of time that's going to take you to provide that solution. You actually build the project on how long it's going to take to solve those problems. And this is what it's going to cost. But you pay this cost. This is going to net you this. They're still raking in the dough and you're getting paid with your work. So those are just some of the things that we educate on in our organization in terms of business consulting, career counseling, and entrepreneurship. I hope that that was a long way to get there, but hopefully that explains it.
But all of that was so needed. So several thoughts came to mind as you spoke. One of them, you talked about how the women have
great.
the necessary skill sets, but oftentimes, as I speak to even people in the faith community, female pastors, they talk about the glass ceilings that are there. And so as they pursue to develop their skill sets or their resources or tap into what's available to them, oftentimes we find that our male counterparts, they see you going after it, but they won't tell you hey, this is the way you do that.
Right.
They would rather see you run into that brick wall
That's right.
and fall down as if you're a cartoon character
That's
onto
right.
the ground. And then they someone might say, all
That's
you
right.
do was, but you saw me, but yet you refused to reach out to me.
That's
So
why I mentioned the sponsorship and gaining that relationship. And a lot of times, to your point, they'll just, I remember sayings like, oh, she's drinking from a fire hose, or they throw you in the deep water and see if you can swim. And I mean, all those different games that you play. Another thing, just, from a mentorship perspective, is I share, well, okay, that's fine, but make sure you ask for help. And you ask for help from those people who are not, quote unquote, voluntarily helping you. You ask them for what you need, and you don't be shy about it. You be intentional about it, because now you ask them for a specific thing and they have to support you. But see, what we don't like to do is be vulnerable. So as Black women, we want to be strong and mighty and say, we got it going on. We know how to do all this. I'll figure it out. And figuring it out should involve being able to outsource, being able to ask for help in other areas where it's not your area of expertise or something that you like. And so those are the kinds of things that we need to learn to do, not necessarily that everybody's that way, but just, again, try and identify what are the gaps in this particular individual, in this particular Black woman, that we need to support in order to get them unstuck and move them to the next level.
But wouldn't you say a lot of our culture kind of contributes to us not recognizing, or even if we see it, to ask for that help? Because so oftentimes we're left out by ourselves. And unless somebody says, hey, look, I'm going to invest in you. Here's the direction that you need. Here's where you can get that free training, or here's a class over here that you can take to help empower you. Isn't that a lot more cultural? And we have to learn how to make that shift in order to sustain the vision.
You're so right. And so that's why, remember I mentioned the F.R.E.S.H approach?
Yes.
So we're taking a F.R.E.S.H approach to supporting Black women at high levels of success. And so we proactively identify 5 areas: finance, relationships, entrepreneurship, spiritual, and health. And we feel like 1 or 4 or all of those categories tend to be where we as Black women get stuck. So it's not enough just to offer that career counseling and that entrepreneurship education, right, or mentorship. But if we don't identify the areas where we have problems or opportunities and support that as well as we are journeying along, then we still kind of can end up in a hamster wheel. So, we have licensed medical family therapists as directors of education under our relationship pillar, for example. So these are women, Black women, who are educated to support relationship, family issues. Some of them specialize in domestic violence, trauma, all that stuff. So, we don't tend to be experts in everything, but we certainly offer this opportunity to have women educated in some of the other areas, or mentored in some of the other areas where they may be having problems. Why do I say all that? Because if you don't have all that other stuff together, then even though we are offering the opportunity, you can't move. You're stuck. You're weighted down by this situation, and therefore you don't succeed. And how many times you go, if you're working, I know for me, I'll speak for myself. If I was working, I was having financial difficulty. It's hard to focus and do a great job. If you've got health issues, being able to do a quality work, even if you're, doing your best, somewhere it's not gonna work, because you can only do so much with with your situation. And so we need to mitigate some of these problems and we can't just educate in one situation and not address the other areas.
Awesome. So now we have OMG WOW or WOW, Women Outreaching Women, but you also have your consulting business. And so I'm taking that you're giving some of some from both right now. So where does the coaching start, and then the mentoring kind of, like, where is that fine line?
Well, I think you're asking, you've got a consulting business, Peggy, you have a 501c3. So how do you divide that work, that thought process? And so, first of all, I want to make sure it's clear that my priority is OMG Women Outreaching Women. And it is, oh my God, we put God first in everything that we do. That's why the OMG is in front of the Women Outreaching Women, because without God, we are not going to be successful.
Amen.
And I know you can probably relate to this, but Rev Patrina, God asked me to do this. So I'm asking him for the resources and the power and the energy and the money, everything that we need to make this a success. And it's interesting, I left my corporate job about a year ago, and I really, to do this full time. And I said, okay, God, I'm stepping out on faith. Let's go. And the fact that I am here today is a testimony to the support that God will give you when you work in purpose, when you work in what he asked you to do. So this was not the plan that I had, but this was certainly the plan that God had. But back to dividing the two different things. So Women Outreaching Women is just that, is a 501c3 organization supporting Black women to high levels of success. So whenever we have a program, we need to actually, vet out and make sure that we're supporting our avatar, our audience, who we are supporting in our organization. That's first and foremost. So we're supporting Black women. So what do we do with men or other ethnicities that still want that education? So they can still be supported through our consulting group, through my consulting group. So Black women and then everybody else. That's kind of how we're dividing it out. That makes it sense. So we are clear about our mission, and our vision is to make sure that we bridge the gap for Black women, and we are intentional about it.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if someone wanted to be one of your consulting clients, is there a fee that's expected of them? I'm assuming that there is, because you're consulting. Usually that equals money. But
yeah. So remember, we talked about how we scale and we talked about pricing. So as a consultant, yes, we would obviously consult them, give them a free consultation, determine what their needs are, and then we would present them with a proposal as to how we can support them for whatever their endeavor, how long it will take to support that, and however long they would like to move forward. That's what we would do. We counsel in career counseling, we counsel in business counseling, and I have a background in field reimbursement. So I actually support doctors' offices who need support in patient reimbursement. And what that means is medicines cost a whole lot of money. And a lot of times offices need opportunities to support their patients to make sure that they can get the medication at the lowest possible cost. And that sometimes involves, prior authorizations and writing letters to insurance companies and things like that, which I have an expertise in. So I can support offices that need support, specifically in physician offices. So got a lot of different things that we do at OMG Consulting Group, but those are primarily the things that we offer.
So I take it that your history brings along with it a network of people who can give the expertise or the counsel, the guidance necessary for the consulting clients.
Yes, ma'am. And so back to the ask for help. So, my thing is, I'm a conversationalist. I am a collaborator. I work best when I work in teams, right? But I'm also really good at developing relationships really quickly. And that's a gift from God. It's not a brag, it's just a fact. So I can get in and people will just tell me like their utmost secrets. But even if they don't tell me, I'm almost able to identify it. I can kind of call it out. I can go, well, have you ever thought about, ask them a question? Well, did you know that, I called your office and it took 11 rings for somebody to answer the phone, and then I was on hold. And do you know that a lot of your customers might be hanging up? I was like, really? And so they looking at each other, looking around the room, and they're like, that's a situation. I think that's an educational opportunity. And I think that if we could change some of that process, maybe we could help, you have more customers, have more profitability, bring in more revenue. How many customers do you serve a day? Oh, your average, yeah. You see what I mean? So we get into these conversations. And so then if I identify a problem where it's not my area of expertise, I'm going to still say that's the situation, but then I'm certainly going to bring in the experts that can offer the opportunity to support that organization, to give them the consulting that they need. At the end of the day, most of the time it's on execution, Patrina. It's that they know what the problem is. They know how to solve the problem. It's usually just presenting them with, you need to do this, do it or not. It's not my job to do it, unless it's maybe like the doctor's offices where we're educating them on writing a letter or something. Maybe I'll write it for them, but it's my job to point it out to them, and then they have to execute. So we give them an execution plan. They got to deliver.
Wow, I wish that this business out here where I live, wonderful, wonderful restaurant. The food was good, but it only lasted maybe about 4 months. The food was fantastic, and I missed them. And so I'm like, what happened? I'm like, why are the lights off? And so I wish you could have gotten with them to help them because they were on and popping. And in the area I live in, it's a much needed restaurant, really. Good food, tasty, all of that. It was a diverse clientele, and it was just so needed at a time like this. And you could see it was a little chaotic, but the food was so good. Everyone waited for the food, and now they're gone. So
yeah. And so that's that failure rate, right? Now, was that skill? No, because the food was great. But it could have been skill in terms of productivity, execution, back to who's answering the phone, So maybe they had issues with management, someone managing staff, hours. They didn't have enough, input into that. And so if you got a great product and how long are people can they be expected to wait? That's a problem. And then also, but then the word of mouth was good because people were saying the food was good. So then they're just going to scale up, and more and more people are going to come. So if you need more employees and you need more skilled employees, then hire them. Take the hit initially, because starting a business, it costs. And they probably looked at the revenue, and then maybe they didn't get enough funding to be able to do that. But at some point, it was going to get to a place where they were going to meet the debt was going to meet the asset, and then eventually they were going to soar, and the skies would have been the limit. Also, if you don't here's the other thing. This is what I tell people all the time: restaurant owners. They probably were excellent cooks, but they weren't excellent at managing staff or people. Remember, culture is a very big part of your business, right? And we talk about this in our business class. And so if you're horrible, just admit it and get somebody else in here that can manage and work with you. I don't know what the problem is, but we would get in there, and then it would raise its ugly head. The devil is a lie. And then you just have to tell them, this is the problem. All you need to do is just fix this. But then if you don't have the intention, some people have a pride issue or whatever. You got to pray over that and just say, hey, all I can say is this is the situation. You're not good at managing people, so you have a lot of turnover. You're hiring quality people, but they don't like to work here, for whatever the reason is. Or it could be you're not offering enough benefits or incentives or something to keep the people there. You need a lot of people, and you need a great manager to manage these people. If you can't be here to manage this, you're not going to be successful. If you manage this right, you're going to grow as a restaurant, you're going to have hundreds of patronage, and you'll be profitable. They don't do it, they're going to go out. So this is why we try. One of the very first chapter in my workbook for how to start a successful business is growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And growth mindset is the opportunity to be able to admit where you're weak and be able to grow in the areas that you have strengths, but not just staying in a fixed situation, in a fixed mindset. So we got to deal with your mindset before you can deal with any of the situations that you have. And if we can move the needle with your mind and get you to think a different way, then we can create success.
You know, it's interesting. Romans 12, chapter 12, and verse 2 came to mind, you know, and be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed, changed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. And then my favorite scripture, one of my favorites, I have a lot of favorites, but one of them is 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 17. And it talks about, if anyone be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away, and behold, all things are new. In other words, it speaks to the progress of an individual. In order for us to grow first in the image of Christ, we have to continue on with being changed, being renewed, not being the same, not remaining fixed. Because if we are fixed, I feel like there's something wrong with our faith journey, or our belief system, shall I say. We're not experiencing the victories that we need to, in order to become, like you said, being teachable in so many words, a change mindset, showing a growth mindset. And so in order to grow, you have to change, but that means you got to let some stuff go and pick up some new things, you know, old, like traditions. There are so many traditions we try to bring in mama and granddaddy. Now keep the good traditions, like being with family on holidays, you know, or going to see about your loved ones, but those traditions that are time stamped and they no longer relate, that, and it definitely does that in the business arena.
That's it. You hit. So see, if this is why we have the F.R.E.S.H approach. Thank you so much for that. Because we can't just deal with the one situation. It's a mindset. It's a mindset shift. It has nothing. That's why I said the skill. Yeah, it might be some skills that you need, but that we can go get that. We can buy anything today. We can buy anything today. So if you are able to but you have to be able to identify the fact that you have that situation. And then sometimes people just can't get over. There's so many things that people just can't get over that they need to get over. And we as women, Black women, we have been traumatized for 400 years. And it's not our fault that we have all these situations, but we need to be able to find places where we can deal with it so that we can move forward for success. And so that's why we're not just identifying with just one area, we're moving in several areas. Another one of my favorites, you know, when I talk about elevating to high levels of success, is Joshua 1:8, meditating the long day and night so you will have good success. And so literally when I wrote that mission statement, I was thinking about, this is how you do it. It's really meditating on the word, meditating on God day and night. So if you don't have spirituality, you don't have a sense of a supreme being. You don't have a way of creating a space where you are giving glory and honor to God, you know, then we also have an issue, because if you have no boundaries, you know, in terms of good versus evil, you know, good over evil, good over bad. I don't know. I feel like you have to have identified how you are, supporting yourself spiritually. And so that's why we didn't leave spirituality out. And I have tested this with other ethnic groups, with different people who try to challenge me on the religious aspect of it. I make it clear that I am a Christian and I am Jesus is Lord, and I follow the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? But I respect the fact that there are different opinions and things out there, but have something that you believe is bigger than you, and have a way of meditating in that, So we got to meet people where they are. And then we can, and I'm sure you, as a pastor, I'm probably, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, like, you meet them where they are, you provide them with opportunities, with education, and God does it. I'm just a vessel, and God will it's free will for all to decide who you will serve. And when you've been given the information, now that you have the information, it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with that. So, and that's not on us. We are just we are spread the gospel throughout the world. Once we've done that, this is what you're doing with this show. You're speaking to the world and spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, of the whole nine. You're doing all that, but it's up to people to receive that and to accept that and to do what they need to do. So we're merely vessels, and we are not shy about sharing what we are doing. And when I share that with these two old white guys that are my mentors, they're like, because they challenged me on this in the beginning, like, well, what are you going to do about that spirituality? Let me just tell you, because they're Jewish guys, which is fine. And they loved it, and they said, okay.
And it's amazing. I love how you pointed basically everybody back to the cross where Jesus hung for our sins. And then, of course, we know he was crucified there, but then he was resurrected with power to break curses in our lives. And one of those curses is the curse of pride, where we feel like I can't ask for help. I won't ask for help because I can do it by myself, or I know what I'm doing. And I heard a statement. I watched the TV show yesterday, and the TV show said, isn't it funny, the person who is in the greatest need of help doesn't ask for it? I'm like, whoa, how profound. And so we need to learn, like you said, look up to God. And in our case, look up to Jesus. Ask him to help us. We have the power of the Holy Spirit. He didn't leave us here comfortless. He left the Comforter here to lead and guide and direct us in all areas of truth, whether it's the truth of how to run your business, whether it's the truth of what skill sets you need to grow in, what areas you need to address in your life so that you can be a success. Even if it's on a personal level, be a success, because you are the CEO of your, well, really, God is the CEO of your life if you surrender to him, but you are left the manager of your life. That's right. So we have to go to the Lord and ask him, help me. Because who doesn't get help? The closed mouth, the person who doesn't open their hand. You can't receive. So how can he help you if you won't receive it? And the old school said it like this: you can take the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink.
Okay. So if they end up in our space, then, and again, I'm outreach. So I learned from my ministry, fivefold ministry. I learned that I am outreach. So I'm going outside of the walls of the church to reach people we normally might not reach. So this is why we have OMG. We specify what we represent in our 5 pillars. We are educating in those areas, and we're intentional about it. We're specific to Black women because, again, this is the mission. This is the ministry that God gave me. That doesn't mean that this is not supporting other ethnicities. The education is out there. Our Instagrams are out there, Facebook, all the things that we're doing. This is our message. And so if someone else, and we have followers that are not of that group, which is great, but so they're still getting our message. And it's important, again, with our brand, that people know what we stand for. And whenever we make a decision, it's always reflected back to, well, what is the mission of this organization? And is that what we're doing? Is that supporting our mission? And if it's not, then we don't do it. If it is, then we move forward. So this is why we appreciate these platforms, Rev Patrina, because it gives us an opportunity to share who we are, what we do, why we're doing it. And we also just need the support of the community. There's two goals of OMG Women Outreaching Women. The first is to offer an opportunity, a safe space where Black women can come and be educated, mentored, and inspired. We talk a different way. I mean, it's kind of difficult to explain this, but we need to be able to talk unfiltered. And we put filters up when we're in different situations. We don't really actually bring our whole selves. And this is what we know as Black women that we do. But we do it out of respect, and that's fine. But then the second goal is to educate the community on the status of Black women. I don't think the community really knows that we have to work an extra 9 months in order to be paid the same amount as a white man who makes what he makes in 12 months. So we have to work through September of the following year and almost 2 years to make what he makes in a year. I don't think we really realize that we are, the providers in most cases in the household. And so we're the breadwinners and we're moms and, all these different situations that we have, that we're balancing so many and juggling so many things that other ethnic groups don't necessarily need to balance. So we're not, and I use the word status of Black women instead of plight, because I don't want to sound like we are, downtrodden. Not by no means. We are strong, we are smart, we are go-getters, we're all these things, but we need support and we need to educate ourselves on how we can move forward and bridge this equity gap.
Awesome. And I like how you're bringing out the social issues here, that Black women, we just got it coming and going. One of the things that came to mind as you were just mentioning that is even how we don't always find a lot of Black men who are supportive of our efforts or our goals. And then we might have to find that man from a different race. Like you said, you have 2 Jewish mentors. And you've been blessed with a husband who partners with you, but so many women don't have that. And so they are left feeling alone or isolated, and then that contributes to them not always asking for the help that they need. But what do you say to that woman there who finds herself in that position?
That finds themselves in a position where they don't have the husband support or family support.
Family, or even that strong Black male role in their lives to say, hey, you can do this. I'm behind you. I'm going to do what I can to support you.
Absolutely. And with our organization, again, we try to meet women where they are. So if they come across our organization, then obviously we just start where they are, and back to that mindset shift. So you got it, sis, within you. You got this, and we got you. What is it that, I was talking to, thinking about it. I always think about a real life situation so I can answer the question kind of like from my heart. And I remember we're getting ready to start our How to Start a Successful Business masterclass on this coming Monday, the 5th. And so I reached out to all of the participants in advance and personally called and talked to them to find out what they were expecting out of the class. And this one lady, we asked them, she said, you know what, I haven't started a business yet. I'm a single mom. And so I'm thinking about her. And she said, I don't even know what type of business to start. I just know that I need to do something. So that's a start. Right? Because she's willing to take the class because I gave, told her what the time investment was going to be and what we're going to be talking about. And so now we have a willing vessel. See, so that's where you got to start. So you got to get the willing vessel piece so that they even now she made a step. And now she's going to make another step. She's going to be in the class. And then guess what? We're going to have exercises. We're going to ask them questions like, okay, take about 2.5 minutes and just write down what you love to do. What are you passionate about? I mean, they got to like to do something.
Yeah.
That's all. They can write something down in a couple of minutes, right? So that's where we start, because your passion becomes your purpose.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
where do you like to serve? Because remember, purpose is serving. And of course, then that takes us back to where God put it in you, and see, it took me a long time to find my purpose. And it was there all the time. And it's back to what I said I wanted to be when I was 4 years old.
A teacher.
A teacher.
Yeah.
Duh. Here,
Yeah.
I just didn't know I was going to be this kind of teacher, but it is a teacher. It's so, God is so funny. Like, I crack it up. I was like, and plus I'm doing all the stuff I love to do. He gave me all this knowledge and experience in corporate America that I can share. So whatever somebody mentions something, I just go back to an experience that I had where I was down or up or kicked to the curb or was successful or wherever. I can go wherever they need to go because he took me there. Oh my God. I was in the deep water. I was drinking from the fire hose. I was a successful salesperson. I've gone on the trips and, all this stuff. I'm like, I see you, God, man, this is so awesome.
Yeah.
So I can speak from my experience. And so I can, and I have, it's amazing. Like I told you with this relationship piece that he gave me, like I can just connect with somebody and I can see and hear, and I don't necessarily say it to them, but I can hear her sorrow. I can hear her cry. I can hear her wanting to be success. She wants to own a business and she sees herself doing that. So I want to help her. And I'm praying that she'll find something in this course that'll help trigger what it is that she can do. And then we can help direct her towards getting that identification of the business is what's going to help her get now. Okay. Yeah. It's not about, going to the state and asking for the business license. And it's not that, or, figuring out it's really, what are you passionate about? That's what's going to drive it, because you need all that in order to start a business. It's not easy. But if you don't have that, that's, where you're going to need to start. So that's what we're doing, Reverend.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're getting down on our time already. How do people get in touch with you, Minister Peggy?
They can contact our office at 310-810-0963. They can email me at info@omgwowhq.org. They can go to our website, www.omgwowhq.org. And they can hit the info button and they can email, they can join our membership. They can, those are several ways. They can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, DM us. We on every social media platform as OMG W.O.W. That's our handle on everything. OMG W.O.W. So we're OMGWOWHQ.org on our website, and we're OMG W.O.W. on every other platform. So I think you can find us. You can Google us. We teach this in the class. Can people Google you? Oh, well, what do people do when they're looking for somebody? They Google. You can Google us, and then that'll take you to our Google page, and you can reach out there. So I believe that you can find us anyway.
And I can tell already that this would be necessary for them if they expect to do anything with their lives. Like I often think about how there are no do-overs. We get this one life to accomplish whatever it is we hope to accomplish, and that's it. You know, what God gave us the gift of life, but what we do with that life is our gift to God. And I love
But
how
you
you
can
mentioned
start today, even if
today, everybody, today. Harden not your heart. Start today and contact OMG W.O.W HQ on every platform, on the website OMG WOW HQ.org. And can you repeat the phone number again?
310-810-0963.
All right, everybody, if you hope to be a success in your life, it's not too late. As long as you have breath in your body, you can glorify God with the time that you have left. And one of my things is, even if I do not accomplish all of my goals, at least I have started, and I'm happy with that, to just get started with the process. And as you get started, you have Minister Peggy, who will help you with the resources, the information you need, the network you need to get you going in your area of passion. Again, she mentioned how your passion is your area of purpose. So what is it, like God asked Moses, what is it that's in your hand? In other words, what can you do? What's in your hand? Okay. Are you a writer? Do you cook? Are you a sewer? Do you have a passion for the business arena? God is calling so many people of faith into the marketplace now. This is that season. So find out how you can troubleshoot your dream, your vision, and your business by going to OMG W.O.W HQ on all platforms and get in touch with CEO and founder, Minister Peggy White, and she'll get you started on your journey. Now, just before we sign off, we do have a few more minutes, just a few. Address the issue really quick. You mentioned something a little bit ago about like how we might have clientele, we need to hire more. What have you found in your research that's the real issue of businesses being able to hire the staff necessary to keep their businesses going?
That's a really great question, and it could be multiple things. I think there's probably 3 reasons why people don't hire and scale their business according to what they need. And I'm thinking about startups as well as people who have been in business for a while. We talked about it. One thing I think it is just that pride issue. I can do it myself. The greed. I'll have more money in my pocket if I don't. Can't afford to hire that person because that's going to take out of my profit, what I take home in my pocket. But if you think about that, if you hire somebody, you're actually going to have the capacity to bring in more business, because that's going to free you up as an owner to go out and get more business. And you'd be surprised how much you would take off your plate, to be honest. And I know this because I'm an entrepreneur, so I know how much is on my plate. And I'm steadily looking for opportunities to bring in more people. Fortunately, I've been blessed. God has given us a lot of volunteers at this point, so they don't necessarily have to be employees. But looking for solutions. If you need extra people, then you need to find a way to get extra people, extra hands on the wheel. Number 2, they think, well, I can't afford to hire anybody, or I don't know how to set up a payroll, or just whatever. And so using lack of knowledge without actually looking into it to actually make that move. And there are ways to bring in, I mentioned volunteers, internships. There's a lot of people who are going to school who need internship hours. You can work through local colleges and universities to find staffing that way. You can also do temporary staffing. So you don't necessarily have to bring them on as payroll. You can go to temp agencies to find different employees. And then also you can hire as a contractor. So you don't have to even set them up on payroll. You can pay them and then give them a quote unquote 1099 at the end of the year that says how much you gave them for the services. And then it's up to them to pay the taxes and set up all those things. So there's thousands of ways to mitigate. The problem is back to not knowing exactly why they're not doing it. I can't really identify what the solution would be. I'm just kind of giving you some for instances. And then last but not least, really and truly, they do need more funding. They do need to fund their payroll. I worked at Wells Fargo. That was as an underwriter for small businesses for loans. That was the number one reason why they asked for cash, is what they wanted to support their payroll. So that they could expand. So expansion is actually a great problem. That's a high class problem. We need to expand. So embrace that and go out and ask for the money. But then, of course, maybe based on credit or some other things that they're unable to get the extra funding. And so that might be an issue. But then again, looking at ways in which you can mitigate even the credit issues. You can get credit, you just may have to pay more interest wise in order to get it. So yeah, but then that means you got to make sure you got a solid business plan for growth to make sure that you're going to be able to pay that money back. And that's what the banks look for, is, do you have the ability to pay us back if we give you this money? So we got to talk about that. So it's not just a cookie cutter kind of solution. There's different situations that you have to look at as to why companies don't hire. But once we understand what those are, then we can talk about some solutions.
Got you. And basically sometimes the CEO can't get paid first. They might be the last one who needs to get paid in order to keep things going and the flow, because eventually it's going to all line up. Well, Minister Peggy White, thank you so much for being a part of our show on today. Again, we would like for our listeners to go to OMG W.O.W HQ on all social media platforms. And if you're going to the website, OMG WOWHQ.org, to get in touch with Peggy White, CEO and founder of OMG Women Outreaching Women, and as well the OMG, or is it WOW Consulting? I can't remember this.
If they get to WOW, then they'll get to OMG Consulting, because OMG Consulting is me. So,
okay, all right.
So regardless, we will get them to the right place and what they need. And I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate this opportunity that I've had to share with you. It was so amazing. I
had a great time.
I'm excited. And may God continue to bless this platform and to bless you, Rev Patrina, and fill you back up with all that you give out to the community, because this is a wonderful thing. It's wonderful what you guys are doing. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I have to thank our show producer, your first cousin, Vivian Denham Greer, who put us in touch with you, and as well as our CEO and our founder, Reverend Penny Rogers of NLTS. That's my ministry, NLTS Conferences, but Penny is my co-host there. But Penny is the founder of WCEG Network. And we have just a few seconds to thank everybody for tuning in today. Minister Peggy White gave you some really huge nuggets so that you can develop your 2023 vision board for your business. So everybody, God bless you, take care, and we will see you in the new year.